It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be talking about Purple Yam, Financier, HP Toppings, and Candy Toppings. So, what's going on here is that Purple Yam has the ability with the Magic Candy at level 10 plus to start creating damage resistance as well as the debuff resistance. So what that's going to be doing is creating a very tanky, very powerful yam that doesn't need to rely on almonds to continuously survive. In addition, when we're using the peanut toppings, we are increasing the health pool by a large amount. So when Berserker Spirit goes off, we're going to be healing for big amounts too. So it pairs very well in combo together. As you can see at level 20, it's even better. And at level 30, it's pretty amazing. Because by level 30, you get 50% damage resistance with Berserker Spirit. Whereas you get lower versions at the lower levels. So level 30 would be the most optimal run with the HP toppings. But as you can see, with these HP toppings, at least what we've currently got, we have almost 400,000 health and over 100,000 defense. And if we look here, we have a 22% damage resistance. So if we could, we would get that higher. 30% is the max you can get at substats. But the cap is met pretty quickly for a couple reasons. So if you take the 22% here on Purple Yam, add the 15% that you get from the Monument, which if you haven't unlocked, I highly recommend doing so. You get 37% total. If you take the 15% from Wildberry, you get 52% total, and then you will exceed the cap once the skill fully activates through Purple Yam. So really, most of the needs and odds are being met between all of those forces. Now, for Financier, though, as you can see, Financier's skill gives you damage resistance of 20% for 15 seconds. So Financier can run a little bit differently. You can run peanut toppings too. Yet again, I highly recommend high damage resistance at a base because you're waiting for the skills and it is a timed amount. So you do run out of the skill once the time limit is up. And it can stack. So if you can keep Financier alive with a good base damage resistance, a high HP, and either a high attack or defense for the healing, that is a good way to run the peanut toppings on Financier. However, there's a little bit of a better way. Using candies. So with the candies, this is yet again prefacing that you have high damage resistance as a baseline. Anything less than 15%, it's not going to be completely viable. And that's why when I do this run, we're going to be using this because we're running almost 20% here. And we're getting the skill to activate more, which will be giving us stacks of damage resistance because of the skill itself. So here on Amplified Buff, you'll be getting increased shield potential. You'll be getting more powerful heals when the heals are happening. And so the candies can work, but for candies to work specifically on Financier, and I'm sorry I don't have the materials to make enough candies to showcase this just yet, but I will in time, I would run specifically Amplify Buff, damage resistance, and then attack if you want the best heals, or cooldown if you want the most protection. So if you run cooldown as a substat and get that high, you're going to have really great shields, you're going to be applying it often, you're going to be getting those stacks of damage resistance, and you're going to be pretty well protected along the line. So considering it, if you get this to a max of 30% for the substat of damage resistance and a max of 10% for the cooldown, within 2 skill rotations, you should be at max capacity for the damage resistance cap. At 4.9%, what we have now, it takes 3 skill rotations just because of the timing. And so it's just not enough to get all the way up there, and therefore it can fall a little short in certain battles. Some battles it doesn't care because it's able to match up pretty well. So candies can work on Financier, but as the high meta teams right now, if you're going to do any mirror matches, you're going to need those candies at high damage resistance to really truly match up. So we'll be running the cooling top downs for Financier in this run, just because we are going to showcase the battles at the higher ranks. And so just to make sure we got everyone else lined up, we got Purple Yam there. We've got Wildberry running high damage resistance. Cacao running critical hits because we want that damage, and Vampire running a full searing build. We don't have as much damage resistance on Vampire as we'd like to, but that is our guild setup, so we're going to run with it. So, let's take it into battle and show you what we got. So, really, the Monocle is our healer of the team. Obviously, we do have Financier for some heals, but that's singular targets rather than all. Cacao's not going to last very long in this team setup. He's mostly there for the injury, the shield removals, and the initial damage bursts, as he's great at that. Monocle will help keep him alive here and there, as well as the insignia if he does not die first, as sometimes Vampire will be the one to die first. But as you can see, the frontline team just absolutely hammering away without having too much issues losing out their health, even against mirror teams, just because the HP from the toppings for the peanut toppings for Yam just working so well with the skills, and then the cooldown getting those stacks on Financier, it just blends as a really nice combo. As you can see, their Financier did way more damage, and they probably, they did more healing too. So they're either likely running a critical build or a searing build, which is fine. That's okay to run that, but you're losing out on optimization. Because if you look at damage received, they received even more damage. That's because of the healing that they did. So healing received 800,000. Damage taken 2 million. That means that we only had 785,000 plus 1.6, 235, where they had 280. So they had 80,000 more HP to deal with in that battle between healing and setup, but we still took them out without issue. They even had Frost Queen to slow down our skills. Didn't matter. We had the upper hand there. So even though they had a powerful setup between the Magic Candies of Vampire and Espresso, and they had a healer in the front, they were lacking on damage resistance from Wildberry, and they were lacking on a healer since they were running Frost Queen, and they did not have Purple Yam's insane damage output coming from the lack of them not running Yam at all. So really, Vampire was the one that took the damage kingpin here, but the next person up was Purple Yam. And that's with running HP toppings. Obviously, if we run critical or attack toppings, we have a chance to do more damage, of course, but then we take away the survivability of Purple Yam, and then it's not doing what we want. We're going to run against a speed team here, just because of the robes. So they got Caramel Arrow and Eclair. That weakness is definitely going to hit us pretty hard. The Monocle might activate fast enough for us to be safe, but if it doesn't, we're going to definitely take some big damage. Thankfully, it did activate in time. The Insignia is also there to help protect our team if we do take some pretty powerful critical hits, as it looks like we're about to take. So Cacao ends up dying first on our team, and Vampire's just tearing down into their Herb in the back. Herb has been a really good counter against this team specifically that I'm running, so be wary and watchful of that. But as you can see, we're still handling pretty well. I don't know if we'll activate in time for the Monocle, but look, that Berserker Spear just absolutely catapulted Purple Yam back to full health before the Monocle could even activate. And that's what I love, is that with the HP toppings on Purple Yam, once the Berserker Spirit hits, boom, Purple Yam's at full health. Doesn't even matter if the Monocle's ready or not. And that means he's right back in the game, recycling those activations, and it's absolutely beautiful. So, let's go ahead and battle one more. Let's try and get something different. Alright, so this is a summon team. This one's going to be a bit tough, because they have a lot of bodies. We should still have the win here, because Vampire is going to be able to take out Oyster, and that should take out their body count and their critical potentials. However, if they are running Pumpkin Pie and Sorbet, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, because Sorbet is definitely a powerful counter to this quad tank team. So it's a iffy on the in-betweens, so we'll see what we run against. And it is Frost Queen instead, so we actually stand more of a chance, even though the skill cooldowns will be effective against us and be problematic. And as you can see, Purple Yam's taking a lot of damage just because of the amount of bodies on their side of the field. We are still doing very healthy amounts of damage. So we're going to lose Purple Yam first in this setup, and that's just because of the sheer amount of people that they have on the field. But because they did not have sorbet, we still will be able to take the win. And that's just because of that setup between the damage resistance stacks of Financier and the HP of Yam. Because if Yam did not have that HP and we were more focused on damage resistance, maybe he would have lasted, but he would probably have still run into a lot of issues because he's just being hit by so many bodies so fast. And Wildberry's such an amazing counter to summon cookies, and that's why we had a real good chance there, was because Wildberry was just putting in the work, absolutely tearing into the field. So I'd love to hear your opinions and your feedback on this team. I'd love to see what you think on the HP toppings, on the candy toppings, on the cooldown toppings for Financier. Yet again, if you can get this up to a high damage resistance baseline, 15% minimum, with a good amplify buff percent as well, so you get the shields and the healing, you could try and run candies on Financier. Definitely doable. And it still works. Like, I'll set it as the preset before we end this video. I'll go ahead and take it against another team. That one's not fair because they have a level 6 scroll. Let's take it against this. So this is lower damage resistance on our side. We don't have the skill activating as fast, so we're not going to get it overflowing stacks. But we are going to be getting the buffs extended from Wildberry, and we're also going to be getting better healing from Financier's healing. So let's see how it fares out. Looks like we still have a good lead because of our Yam setup and our monocle insignia combination, but we definitely still ran into some issues because we lost Yam there, and I don't think we would have lost Yam if we would have had better skill cooldown on Financier. So as you can see, less attack, less overall healing, just because the skill wasn't activating as much. And so that's why you need that high cooldown, that high damage resist, so that you survive and you keep going and everything out. So right now I'm running the chocolate cooldowns on Financier. I think that's the best setup for the moment. But if I can get more powerful amplify buff toppings, then I will switch to that for Financier, as I'll be able to keep her alive for quite a long time in battle. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the team, on the different toppings. Is there any other cookies that you specifically want to see non-unique toppings, non-meta toppings used on? Like, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. It's definitely a more obscure topic than most ever cover. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by, and have a wonderful day.